Hello, we continue our series on Jesus, and the question is, how was Jesus able to make such an impact on his hearers? Let's go to Matthew chapter 5, verse 18. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew, and they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James the son of Zebedee and his brother John, James and John. And they went in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. What makes people follow Jesus? Now, as we read on, Jesus went through Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who are ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, and those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. Large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. What made them follow him? Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, that's chapter 5, verse 1, he went up to the mountainside and sat down, and his disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. So this is where the Sermon on the Mountain comes, the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. And he went on to teach them in verse 11. He said, blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Now the question is this: what made Jesus' words have so much impact? Now, I want to just digress a bit and talk about the Beatitudes. We tend to read this Sermon on the Mountain like it's a set of instructions. It's actually not a set of instructions. It's just a reorientation of the thinking of the people, of the hearers, to know what is to be celebrated, what is important, what is to be admired. Now, it's, for example, the corresponding Sermon on the Plain in Luke chapter 6 talks about a list of blessedness and then woes. Now, are the woes an instruction? No, it's letting you know what is to be admired and what is not as highly esteemed. So it's not something wrong with the rich, no, but letting them know there is something higher. There's something about the ministry of Jesus Christ. He always lifted the thinking of the people beyond their circumstances, beyond their societal way of thinking, to God's higher way of thinking, God's higher way of being, God's higher orientation. But the question is this: he's speaking to, because Jesus' ministry was confined mostly to the Jews while he walked the earth. So he's speaking to a people that even Yahweh and Moses said are stiff-necked people. So was he giving them a new set of laws? Where's the power for them to obey? Because it's already written that they could not obey the laws of Moses, because he came with a different spirit. Now, he's still the word of God that was contained in the law, but as John said, John chapter 1 verse 17, for the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. I'd like us to go to John and look at John chapter 1 in detail. He said about the word of God, Jesus is the word of God became flesh. He said in him, verse 4, was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. In verse 9, he said that the true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. Jesus was the illumination of mankind, the consciousness, the one that stirs up our spirits to come alive to God. So the same words that created and said, light be, and there was light, and said, let there be birds in the air, and there were birds in the air. That's the same word that was speaking to them. He spoke words that were with authority. That's in Matthew chapter 7, verse 28. The crowds when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority, one who had right. He had the right to say the things he was saying. They were different, but he had the right to say them. He said, and not as their teachers of the law. So Jesus was speaking to a set of people that their ancestors had been described like a stiff-necked people. So was he giving them new laws? No, he was giving them life. He was speaking to their spirits. He was speaking to their consciousness. He brought grace and truth. Because the law was a babysitter, as Paul puts it. But grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. The law was designed to prepare the people for this time. I read Ezekiel because God knew what he was doing when he sent Jesus Christ. In the book of Ezekiel, this was his promise to them in chapter 36. He said, for I will take from you, verse 24, for I will take you out of the nations, and I will gather you from all the countries and bring you back into your own land. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your impurities, and from your idols I will give you a new heart and a new spirit, and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. See the tenses used. I will. God is taking the responsibility for the change, for the transformation. And he said, I will sprinkle clean water on you and you will be clean. In verse 27, he said, I will put my spirit in you. This is where we're going. And move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. So while Jesus walked on the earth, he said to his disciples, he said, you are clean through the words I speak to you. You are purified. You are pruned through the words I speak to you. In John chapter 6 verse 63, he said, in John chapter 6 verse 63, Jesus said, he said, the words I have spoken to you, they are full of the Spirit and life. Another translation, the Good News translation says, what gives life is God's Spirit. Human power is of no use at all. The words I have spoken to you bring God's life-giving Spirit. The same way God breathed life into Adam. The words Jesus spoke brought life-giving Spirit that was able to move the hearts of the hearers. And he culminated it. He perfected it by his death on the cross and his resurrection, that anyone that believes in him will receive a new heart and a new spirit that moves us to obey the words of God, to do it, to put it to practice. Now, telling people to put something to practice, we often do it like it's something of a willpower. No. The power to do the word of God is contained in the word of God. Our job is to teach it with faith, knowing that it contains the power to give life that will move the hearers to comply. This is what brought the transformation in the hearers of Jesus Christ. This is why they said everywhere he went that he spoke with authority, like someone that had right, because in his words was the power to do what it talks about. Of course, we need to be willing, but the power to be willing is also contained in the words. Like Paul said, he said, God is at work in you both to will and to do according to his good pleasure. It's important to realize the potency of the word of God, and therefore we'll preach it from a position of love and faith, knowing that the power is inside the words to cause the transformation in the hearers. And it's not by human effort. It is by faith, trust in the potency of the words that Jesus spoke, that Yahweh spoke, and the Spirit of God that is at work in them. God bless you. I'm Deborah. See you next time.